Hey YouTube, Alex Conley here, and today's video I want to talk about some of the disadvantages of the computer science, the CS major. A lot of people pursue this degree when they're wanting to work as a programmer professionally or a software engineer, etc. And so, uh, kind of getting into the disadvantages of this video, and before I get into them, I want to let you guys know I will do an advantages video. I'll do some of the benefits of getting into this field, but in this video we're going to talk about the disadvantages, the downsides. So first off, generally speaking, computer science requires a lot of math. So if you do not like math, this is not going to be for you. You may not be using math in your job when you know after you finish school and get a job, but to get through the actual program, basically all engineering classes that I'm familiar with, or all engineering disciplines that I'm familiar with, tend to require a lot of math. So from what I can tell, most of the CS majors or degrees that I've looked at, program-wise, require anywhere from Calc 1 through math through Calculus 1 through up to Calculus 2 and Calculus 3. So some programs stop at 1, some will require you to go through 2, but that's not just it. You often have to take linear algebra, discrete math, and probability and statistics. So keep in mind that you're going to be doing, if you go through with the BS in computer science, you're probably going to be doing several years worth of math. So if you don't like math, if it's not fun for you, if it's super difficult and you just hate it, this field's, this degree is probably not going to be for you. Consider also that CS is compared frequently to a math major, so a major in mathematics. It's not just compared to other engineering disciplines, but it's often also compared to math. And I know of at least one YouTuber that is well known as far as software engineering goes, that he actually came from a math background. And yeah, there's definitely overlap there. So be prepared for that. That's certainly going to be a disadvantage if you don't like math. Math classes, kind of following up on that, math classes can kind of serve as the cutoff for various disciplines. So I've heard of Calc 2 being described this way a lot, where Calculus 2 is designed to be so difficult that it stops a certain number of people from progressing further in the major to the upper division classes, that many universities simply can't support offering the upper division computer science classes in the numbers that there's demand for. So rather than trying to meet that demand, they make some of the lower classes artificially difficult to try to, cull the numbers, basically. So keep in mind that even if you're good at math, some of these some of these math classes can be extremely difficult, beyond what is even normal or expected, or what you'll even need at the job. Not just because the discipline will require you to understand math well, but because the college has an incentive to try to limit the number of graduates from computer science. Okay, kind of moving on. The CS major in college can be too theoretical for some students. Some go to, they start to study CS or they study computer science, assuming that all they're going to be doing is writing software all day or all week. And they find that, sometimes they're spending more time reading about terms and ideas and abstractions and things like that more often than they anticipated. So they find that it's just too much theory, too many ideas, not enough actions, and they would prefer to be more hands-on in their education. So keep in mind that computer science is not the same as programming. And if you're looking to do a degree where you're programming a lot, CS might, have some of that, but it might not have totally what you are looking for. So that could certainly be a disadvantage for some people. Okay, keep in mind CS programs, and I've heard this about engineering in general, but I just have experience with CS. Um, Programs tend to be time consuming to the point of not allowing for you to have a job to earn money outside of classes. So a lot of CS people attempt to uh, sort of combat this by doing paid internships in the summer, and that's certainly something to look into. But keep in mind that your classes, particularly in junior and senior year, may be so time consuming, particularly if you're taking a full load, that you don't have time to work you don't have the ability to work a part-time job to earn side money. It kind of varies from person to person. Some people can handle it better than others. Maybe some people are just naturally gifted at CS. They're not spending as much time on the homeworks and the studying as some other students. But I find it pretty difficult to me, so I don't see myself, particularly in junior or senior year, working a whole lot outside of, say, like summer internships. Next, you may not get to work with the technology of your preference. So I know some people that are already maybe writing some basic software, learning how to program, and they're not quite yet in the CS program. Keep in mind that you may have interest to work with some of the latest technologies that you read about or hear about online. And keep in mind that you may not be learning about these technologies in your CS program. You may be using older technologies. You may be using less flashy technologies. You may not get to do the things that you want to do outside of your free time. So you may have to spend a lot of time going to class, studying, taking notes, going home, writing programs for your lab assignments, etc. And then only in your spare time would you be able to work on some kind of latest front-end framework or some kind of extra special thing. You may not be able to use these things as part of your class assignments. Especially early on. Maybe later on there's more flexibility. I'm still kind of early on in my studies. I have a number of friends that have finished a degree, and but it's been a few years since many of them have finished, so I can't really comment so much on that. But keep in mind, your mileage may vary. You may have to focus on areas of program that aren't your preferred choice. So kind of moving on from that, internship experiences will vary in expectations, pay, and even location. Keep in mind, you may not be able to get a paid internship in your area. You may have to go to another city. You may have to go to another state. You may not get to work at the company, your first company of choice. Maybe you want to go to a certain company, but you weren't accepted to their internship program, so you find out that you need to go to a different company, and maybe you were shooting for X amount of money as far as monthly stipend for your internship, but you're going to have to accept one that has maybe 75% of that. So I wouldn't say, when you're looking at doing the math for that, there's a disadvantage. You may assume I'm going to make this much, and if I just save it all, it'll help me pay for most of my tuition, maybe part of my room and board or something for working in the summer as an intern. But keep in mind that until you're accepted to those programs, you shouldn't account for the optimal situation, basically. They may not pay you to relocate. Let's say you're on the East Coast and your only internship acceptance is in Seattle or something. They may not pay you to relocate out there. They're probably not going to pay for your apartment, your current lease, say on the East Coast. These are real disadvantages where you can't count on just getting a paid internship down the street and being able to stay in your area and earn the maximum and this and that. There's going to be some flexibility there that's needed, and that can be a real disadvantage for some people. Some people don't account for maybe having to relocate for several months. They don't account for the costs that they're going to have to maintain while they're gone. These are things worth considering. So the next disadvantage, moving on from internship related disadvantages, you're going to hear this sometimes, and it's once again, it's probably going to just vary depending on your personal circumstances, but I hear this from other people a lot. Oh, you write software? I've got a $1 million idea. I just need you to help me make it, for free, and you can have a portion of the profits when it gets big. So you're going to hear this from some people when they find out that you know how to write software. Like, oh, it's going to be the next Facebook. It's going to be the next Google. Um, just take a lot of these things with a grain of salt. They're really, in the grand scheme of things, not too many publicly traded software companies. I mean, there's a fair amount, but it's unlikely that a random stranger on the street, walking up to you, that you meet, like in that sort of scenario, is going to have that next idea, because if they have that capability, they're probably already working on it. And that's a disadvantage. If you tell people that's what you do, inevitably at some point or another you're going to have somebody that's going to try to pitch you for some kind of big idea that they have, and you just gotta take it with a grain of salt. Finally, kind of my last few points. You may not like sitting still for long periods of time. If you have trouble sitting still, if you don't like being at a desk for long periods of time, keep in mind that it's reasonable to take breaks, but to make progress, to get into that kind of flow state, you're going to find that you need to sit for a while and really focus and hone in on a problem. Perhaps you're trying to find a bug. There's just times that are needed of deep concentration where it may be better for your posture from time to time. So that's something that I really recommend. There's a disadvantage for some people that are looking at CS, is you're going to need to be proactive about your posture. I don't have the best posture. I'm working on it, but it's something to consider if you're going into a computer-related field, that you do need to make sure that your neck is not prone too forward. That can really give you headaches and cause other issues. Same with your core. You want to strengthen your core so you don't have too much stress on your spine. Something to consider. If you're worried, if you're already having severe posture issues that you can't correct, if you don't like sitting still for long periods of time, if you have a lot of physical energy and you want to get up and run a lot, you can make breaks to get up and run, but you're going to have to kind of sit down and focus with this. So once again, it could be a disadvantage for some people. Finally, I don't know, second to last, I remembered one thing I'd like to add after this one, but CS is attracting a lot of people for money reasons. So if you are somebody that's passionate about writing software, if you have grown up writing different little basic programs, if you really find it really fascinating and fulfilling to learn about technology and computers, keep in mind that you're going to run into some people that are doing it just for the money. It's a very popular thing right now as far as careers go. You have shows like Silicon Valley, you have these companies, major tech firms that are sort of ever present in our daily lives, and it's becoming more and more popular right now. I feel like it's probably just a peak. The idea of becoming a software engineer. So you have people that are getting into this field not because they like it, not because they enjoy math or puzzles or problem solving, but because they see it as a way to make a lot of money. So keep in mind that some of your fellow students may not have the passion that you have, and this is simply a means to an end. That being said, I do think that people should pursue careers where they can make some money. I think that everybody needs money to get by, to survive, and I wouldn't fault people for having money as one of their reasons for pursuing this career. So, kind of my last point, if you're somebody that likes living in a rural area, that likes living in a less populated area, you may find yourself career-wise after you study CS. This is, kind of my final disadvantage of studying CS, majoring in CS. You may find yourself being kind of forced to live in major metro areas. If you can't find a remote position, if you can't find a job that allows you to work remotely, where you can choose to live in a rural, more secluded area, more peaceful, quiet to your preference as far as that goes, you may have to live in like a San Francisco, a Denver, an LA, even like in Atlanta or Chicago, where these cities are quite busy and they can be overwhelming for some people. They can, the traffic, the congestion, the crowding, these types of things can kind of wear on a person. So keep in mind that if you prefer to live in a rural area, you prefer to live in more of a country setting, you may have a harder time on the job hunt as far as trying to find remote positions, trying to find companies that will allow you to opt out of some of these major population centers. It can be quite expensive, and actually, they can eat into your check somewhat because there's a lot of opportunities in these big cities to spend a lot of money. So anyway, I hope these have been helpful. These have been my disadvantages of majoring in CS. I think there's a ton of advantages, and I'm happy to be studying it, but it's worth considering the downsides before you get too heavily invested if you find out it's not for you. So thank you for watching. My name is Alex Conley. If you enjoy this video, give me a thumbs up, and definitely subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.